The New York Times bestselling book Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, good to see you. First about the recount. Do you really believe Jill Stein, with less than 1%, is doing this all on her own? Because it's kind of conspiracy week. Hillary's thinking that the Russians hacked into Wisconsin's voting machines. So can't we say that I think that Hillary probably is prompting, or her people are prompting Jill Stein? That seem plausible?
Look, well, first of all, you covered an amazing amount of ground in that opening report. I want to commend you. And you used video beautifully to get people to understand you're simply giving them what actually happened, not your opinion, but they get to see for themselves. I thought it was brilliantly done. I think the recount mania is one more example of the collapse of the Democratic Party as a realistic institution. Next, we're going to be told that not only were the Russians engaged, but that there were Martians who were secretly voting in a variety of hamlets, and they were all right-wing Martians.
Yeah.
And that therefore, we have to have a whole new election.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. What you're watching is and you're seeing this also with Keith Ellison running for Democratic National Committee chairman. I mean, you're seeing the sort of nutty wing of the Democratic Party begin to take over. And what Hillary said on election night was the right thing to say. I mean, if there was a realistic chance that they could turn 3 states and therefore turn the election, you could say, all right, I get it. There's not. I mean, nobody believes they're going to turn Pennsylvania, period. If you don't turn Pennsylvania, nothing matters. They're probably impossible to turn Wisconsin. It's too big a vote. It's too honest a state. Even the White House has conceded the Russians weren't there. The Martians weren't there. I mean, none of these explanations work. And then you've got Michigan. The odds against them turning all 3 of those states, which is what they'd have to do, are probably 1 trillion to 1. So you begin to get into the nuttiness phase.
Well, we're leaving the phase of coloring books.
A large enough number that it's irrational.
We're leaving the phase. Look, it's been a shock phase. Play-Doh, coloring books, aromatherapy, pet therapy, hot cocoa served to poor little students by their professors. So I guess the next stage is going to be the radical left stage, which is their anger. And so don't they really, there's a motive here to delegitimize Donald Trump. There's a play here. Don't you think it's that?
But yeah, of course. But the problem they've got is they're doing it so badly, they're going to delegitimize themselves. They're going to end up looking silly. I mean, and I think we should just say, all of the nutcakes who want to gather and be part of the Democratic Party should feel very free to do so. Just don't ask the rest of us to take you seriously. But it's perfect if it's therapy for you to get together and whine and whimper and chant anti-Trump, anti-Trump. Fine, America's a free country. You're allowed to be weird.
You are. It's free will. Absolutely. All right, let me move on. This has become a huge issue. I find myself agreeing with you, Mike Huckabee, Kellyanne, and others that I've talked to. And I was out and about over the weekend. I was off rarely for 5 straight days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I talked to a lot of people. And people are just shocked at the idea about 2 things: that Donald Trump made comments that he doesn't want to go after Hillary necessarily, and 2, that he might pick Mitt Romney to be his Secretary of State. I just played the comments of Mitt Romney. I want to get your take on why you think it would be a bad idea.
Well, let me just say, I think that if the president-elect really for some reason wants Romney, he simply needs to understand in advance that there is an enormous base that wanted to drain the swamp, and they see Romney as the swamp. They will not understand. I mean, he either has to decide he's willing to accept a very large part of his base being totally upset and feeling betrayed and alienated, or he's got to figure out a pretty good explanation. I can't quite imagine the introductory speech where President-elect Trump explains why Mitt Romney makes any sense as Secretary of State. So I think it's an interesting situation. I don't know why he's letting it drag out the way it is. I gather they're going to meet again tomorrow. And it is his prerogative as the president-elect to pick who he wants. But he should understand that folks who are speaking out, whether that's Mike Huckabee or you or Kellyanne Conway or me, we're really speaking out on behalf of an amazing number of people who come up to us and tell us that they, or who email us and just say they cannot understand. And I think it would be a huge mistake to betray that base on behalf of somebody who, this is not like team of rivals. There was nobody in Lincoln's cabinet who was a bitter, unending opponent all the way through the general election. No one.
Right.
So this is a totally phony comparison.
I think the things that he
that
said,
it will be a significant mistake.
He supported Rubio in Florida, Kasich in Ohio, Admiral Mullins in Utah, said he was a racist, misogynist, fraud, huckster, liar, everything horrible you can say. Look, and I say this as somebody who thinks that in 2012, if Romney won, he would have been a much better president, obviously, than Obama. I believed he would have been. This doesn't work on any level. I just don't see it. And I think he's setting himself up for trouble down the road. But as you said, I guess it's going to be his decision. But I would, not that anyone ever listens to me, Mr. Speaker, but I would strongly urge no on that. And there's other qualified people. General Petraeus was there today. I happen to be a big supporter of Rudy for that position, but, you know, they haven't decided, and we'll see which way it goes.
Look, well, let me just join you in that for a second. Rudy Giuliani is the most effective turnaround artist to be a mayor in the United States in my lifetime. He is a straight shooter. He actually has had business dealings in 80 different countries. He understands the world. And anybody who's watched him knows you wouldn't get anybody tougher, both in reforming the State Department and in speaking to the world on behalf of America. And I really do hope that they decide in the end that Rudy is the right guy to be Secretary of State. I think he would do a terrific job.
All right, we're going to take a break. More with Newt Gingrich right after this, and also
we'll see where it goes from here.
General David Petraeus, earlier today, after he met with President-elect Donald Trump in New York City, he is rumored to be in the running for Secretary of State. We continue with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. He has a lot of people to choose from. Again, Rudy, I think, has got to be there. Certainly General Petraeus. It's an interesting example. He paid a price for a very tiny, insignificant, especially compared to Hillary, issue involving private information, confidential information. This raises the question.
David Petraeus.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Let's say David Petraeus is a remarkable leader, has had enormous experience, and brings a lot to it. But let me also mention, if you want to look beyond Rudy, and I don't particularly, but Ambassador Bolton would do a stunningly good job. He understands the State Department. He knows how it needs to be fixed. He has the toughness to fix it. And I think you could find 10 or 15 or 20 people who could do the job, any one of whom would be dramatically better than Mitt Romney.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree. But what about the issue of Hillary Clinton? I would say to Donald Trump, if anyone would listen to me, I would say, Mr. Trump, it's not your decision. You can say that you wish the Clintons the best, but the rule of law, doesn't it have to be followed? Wouldn't it be the decision of the new Attorney General and the Justice Department whether or not laws were broken, and we can't have a two-tier justice system? We have to have equal justice under the law?
Sure. Look, I think the best road forward, because you do have always some inherent sense that there might be somehow inappropriate political motivations. The best road forward would be for the new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, when he's approved, to appoint a genuinely independent person, probably a former federal judge, somebody that is widely regarded as above political partisanship, and have that person coordinate what is both an FBI and an Internal Revenue Service investigation of the Clinton Foundation and of the email scandals. But I think it would be wrong for the president to directly intervene in the justice system, either to help somebody or to hurt somebody. America has to be about the rule of law, not the rule of politicians. And so I would hope that it's fine for President-elect Trump to say he personally has no ill will, but it would not be fine for him to say, therefore, he is personally going to exonerate the Clintons and all of their staff and all the other people that were involved. I don't think he has that kind of power, nor in a healthy, free society should he.
And in fairness, even if you wanted to say move on, well, Barack Obama would have the opportunity, just like Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon for crimes committed and that may have been committed. I mean, the power of the pardon is absolute. So President Obama has the opportunity, if he wants to give a pardon to the Clintons, he could do that, right?
He could, although he'd have to also include a bunch of other people. Because remember, there are other folks who are at risk in this thing, not just, Huma Abedin, for example, or Cheryl Mills. There are a number of people at risk. But the Founding Fathers deliberately gave the president an extraordinary ability to pardon people. And they thought it was a very important tool in a healthy society precisely because they didn't want to see people politically persecuted for some reason. So if President Obama wanted to do that, that would be his power, his right to do it. Whether or not the Clintons would in fact accept that kind of grant, because it also would have to include former President Bill Clinton, which does carry with it, in a sense, some kind of symbol of guilt. I think that's something they and their lawyers would have to work through. But certainly President Obama could do that. That would be totally legitimate. For that matter, President Trump, once he is sworn in, could do the same thing. The question is that really good for America? Do we want America to see that if you're powerful enough and you have good enough connections, that you're above the law? I think that's the grave danger of the Obama Justice Department. And I would hate to see it. I'd hate to see it carried forward to the Trump administration.
I have 30 seconds left. You met with Donald Trump in New York last week, and you want a position to help outside of the administration. Did you talk specifically about that, and can you tell us anything about it? Was it offered to you?
Well, look, all I can say is that Clifton and I had a great conversation. He, I think, is really on top of his game. He is really leaning forward. He understands how big the job is. And we talked about strategic planning and the need to have somebody who could look at the entire system, not just the presidency or not just one department. And I think he's comfortable with that. And he indicated that he would be very supportive of my doing that.
All right, Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. And up next.